Good morning, everyone. Very warm welcome to yet another SEEDIG 7 series meeting. My name is Olga Kiriliuk. I'm chair of SEEDIG Executive Committee. And while it is true that all our meetings are special because we put a lot of efforts and energy in organizing them, this one is indeed exceptional because we decided to organize it as a SEEtalk, which means as a live conversation with an outstanding woman, but also amazing professional. And I'm really pleased and honored to welcome here at our SEEtalk Mirjana Tasić, who is internet pioneer and currently advisor with Serbian National Internet Domain Registry. And when we were deciding to make it as an interview, the main idea was that internet governance is not only and probably not that much about the topics that we are discussing, but about the people who are driving the change behind all the processes that are happening, and about the people who are putting their talent and the best of their knowledge to make the digital world that we are living in, that we are currently living in, a little bit a better place. So I will now pass the floor to our moderator who will be leading this discussion, Karalampu's Kiritis, who is our SEEDIG community member, very active one. So Haris, over to you for this very promising and very interesting, I'm sure, conversation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning also to our guest, Mirjana Tasić. Mirjana, you established the first node of the European Academic and Research Network in Belgrade back in 1988, the first such node behind the Iron Curtain at that time. And also you took the necessary steps and you administered the .Yugoslavia .yu domain from 1992 to, I think, 2008. And then you make the plan to transfer it to .rs. The first question that comes in my mind is, how was the internet in the beginning back in ex-Yugoslavia?
Oh, let's please. I had to change my earphones. Do you hear me properly?
Yes.
That's good. Those days when I started to deal with networking, there is no internet at all. I'm pretty old, you see. I was just a network engineer with large IBM mainframe. And I started to deal with networking at the beginning of the 1980s, something like this. Yeah. And at the end of the 1980s appeared something which is called a European Academic and Research Network. The situation was a little bit strange, but people from, students from faculty for science in Belgrade were using some terminals connecting to our mainframe computer, which is also installed in Belgrade, to gain some practice in using terminals and computers and so on. On the other hand, some people working at the university have traveled around and saw that there is something which connects academic community and allows exchange of documents and mails, and they wanted to have it. So the action started, and I must say that the main person in all this enterprise was one guy from IBM who came to us and said, yes, we can provide one ERNA node in Belgrade because we had a computer suitable enough to accept all the software, and we had all the hardware which is necessary to connect this computer to another node somewhere in the Europe. That's how I entered academic community networking. And when I went there, I can't find the right word in English, because the community was so good and it was so nice to work there. And I would work there for, for nothing. All of us were working just to put something in work and to exchange information and to gain some new knowledge And that was fantastic. We are not competing each other. We are helping each other to make something work. That's how I've been connected to the networking, and that was those days. It was not an internet. There existed some parts of the internet in the United States, but me in Europe and the other of my colleagues didn't know about it at all. At the end of the 1980s, we got some information about a different approach to the networking. And when I got the first draft, documents about the TCP/IP standard, I saw that it is something very, very good, because it might prevail as a standard because it was so simple in the concept. Before that, you usually had some proprietary networking software and hardware, and those the computers of different providers didn't connect to each other. There was necessary to install some kind of gateways between different networks. I don't want to bother you with this, but it was not easy at all. And when you have one open protocol, which is available to everyone, it was a fantastic idea. And that's how I started to deal with networking, and I'm still in the networking 30 years later, a little bit in a different way. So internet, there was not internet in Europe before, at least in my part of the world, before 1990s. And because of the things which happened on Balkan those days, wars and everything, Serbia got internet in 1995, after UN sanctions has been removed. The other parts of Yugoslavia got internet earlier because they were not under UN sanctions, but Serbia got it in 1995.
Sorry, so what were the politics around that thing that were becoming the internet and this kind of connection between the countries and between computers back then? What was the politics around it?
Before internet, you have to find a connection, at least how ERN worked. We had to find the node, I mean the computer in another part of the Europe, which will accept our connection from Belgrade. In our example, it was a computer at University in Linz, and we have to provide, I mean, the connecting part. Not in this example, Belgrade side has to provide the connection between Belgrade and Linz. I mean, the real connection, the wire. So the wire was provided crossing Yugoslavia, then Austria. I think it goes over Ljubljana, something like this. It goes in the same. It went in the same way as the telephone traffic was going. You see. Usually, those days we hired one telephone channel between Belgrade and Linz and used it for data transfer. Now the technology is completely different. We have optical cables. We have some crazy stuff which we didn't think that it will exist in those days. So the telephone infrastructure was used for transferring the data, and the costs of the telephone link was pretty high. It was those days, I remember exactly, 11,000 Deutsche Marks from Belgrade to Linz. Someone has to provide this money, and money was provided by Ministry of Science of those days, Yugoslavia. We had computer one side, in Linz, the similar computer on the other side. And I must say again that our first link was put in work by donation from Rutherford Laboratory in London. They bought new modems, some kind of gear which allows transfer of digital data over analog lines. And they gave us their old modems. That's how first connection was established. So people are helping each other in this area because everything was new, and there was a lot of people who wanted to put something in the work and to get some experience. And we are sharing our knowledge, and we were helping each other. That's the most precious thing which I got from our community.
And like from the moment that was the first node established until the moment that internet became more available to everyone in Serbia then. So what were the major milestones, and what was your role in this process?
What was my role?
Yes.
Those days I was a network engineer at the Republic Statistical Office in Belgrade. And because I was a network engineer, they gave me this node to try to do something with it. And when I became addicted, I pushed it. Next 15, 17 years, I cannot count anymore how much, maybe 20, I don't know. I was doing it for nothing. I mean, it was a nice thing to be done. And it was a new experience, and it was a new, completely different, let's say, community in which we were working. And that's something which pushed you on and on and on. That's how even in the during the bad days, I feel that I have to put as much effort as it is needed to keep it running. That's my personal feeling. That was my personal feeling. Nobody pushed me to do this. That was my decision. And I live with this decision last 30 years.
And when was the internet available to the, like, okay, we have now an internet connection in our country. How many years did the people to be able to use it? How expensive it was? Was it affordable for, I don't know, for everyone to use it?
When we had this academic network, only the users who could connect to this network are usually universities. And the Republic Statistical Office, which was where this mainframe and the main node of ERN was situated, we had one, let's say, room with terminals, and we can provide some user ID and passwords for some people to use this infrastructure just for exchange, mail exchange. And there was mail exchange. There is some kind of chat, some service like a chat here now. And also there was, in the network, there were some repositories of the documents which can be retrieved using just comments put in the mail. You are sending mail to the server and with specific comments in it, and the mail could respond reading these comments. That was the first services which were provided in our community. After that, we had 5 years. I mean, I'm speaking about Serbia. At the beginning of the 1990s, I cannot remember exactly, US government removed, allowed commercial traffic to go over the internet infrastructure, which was built in the United States. So internet became more affordable to many people, yes, let's say like this. But in Serbia, we got first internet connections in 1995 after UN sanctions has been removed. And at the same time, this internet was a little bit expensive for ordinary customer, but for example, I have provided one for my daughter. I could pay for it with not very high salary, because after a war and after all those things which happened here, we were very poor, but it was affordable. Maybe half of a year, 1 year after the UN sanctions has been removed, because it was necessary to install necessary connections, to install necessary equipment to got connection points somewhere in the world. Yes, that was the year 1995. when internet starts to boom in Serbia. Those days it was some kind of Yugoslavia, I forgot. I'm forgetting. I lived in 5 countries or something like this.
And also, how about the equipment? Because okay, you have an internet connection, but you have the means to use it like a computer or some
yes,
kind of...
it was possible to buy PCs. I know that first PC which I bought for my daughter was a kind of PC with Windows 32 or something like this. She was using this during her studies, and she was using this computer also, but the connection to the internet is made also using telephone lines and analog connection with modem. That was the first connections from home to the internet. Also, first over the analog lines, and after that, now at least in Belgrade, in my flat, in the building where I live, I can now choose between 3 providers. 2 of them are offering optical links. So for 15 years or something like this, at least in Belgrade, we have optical cables in most buildings.
And okay, what about the rest of the sea region? Because SEEDIG covers the rest of the sea region. Do you have any experience about the rest of sea region, how the internet evolved in the rest of the region?
Sorry, I can't help with this, but maybe I can find some connections with the people with which I have collaborated during EARN. They are a little bit younger than me, because I was the oldest one in this EARN community. All the other people were very young. They have just finished some kind of engineering, and they have started to work in this EARN community. But some of them are still active, and maybe I can give you some contacts, and you can ask them and provide, continue this series of conversation, because I'm sure they have something to say about the situation in the countries. For example, I have a very good friend from Greece, Pantelis. I can pronounce his name correctly, Pantelis, but the family name is Tsartsakis or something like this. He's a very nice guy. He helped me a lot during our cooperation in this community. And I think he is one of the first, he was for a while the managing director of Fortnet, which is some kind of Greek provider, an internet provider. I don't know the situation now. On the other hand, there is some people from Bulgaria, which I also met, and I can give their connections to you. Also, Veni Markovsky, for example, he's working in ICANN. Probably some of you have met him. And also in Ukraine. But all these guys are connected somehow with top-level domain of the country, because after EARN, it took me about 4 years to put .yu TLD in a proper position that Serbia could use it. In this war times, a lot of ugly things could happen. I don't want to talk about it, but it needed me from 1992 to 1994, 2 years, to get to be in a position that people from the eastern part of Yugoslavia could use .yu TLD. So I know some other people which are also connecting to CCTLDs and these domain stories, which are also which also spent a lot of time in internet in different parts of the Southeast Europe. So you can continue with this kind of dialogue.
And because like it like still ICT sometimes it's like not so gender balanced. How was like your experience being in ICT and STEM technologies as a woman, and what are some common myths about women in the ICT technologies?
And I don't know anything about common myths. My personal experience says that girls are better in database administration than boys, because I was working last 10 years of my, let's say, my pension, my years, which are the years which are needed to get a right pension, a pension from the government fund. In Serbia, I worked about 40 years, and last 10 years of my work I spent at the university faculty of mathematics, and I was watching young people working there, and my experience says that girls are better in database administration than boys. But as a woman in IT, I have to say that I might be a little bit privileged, because when I started to study electrical engineering, there was no difference between boys and girls. We are all equal. I enlisted to this faculty. Nobody thought about my gender. The term of gender doesn't exist in those days at all. I was equal with everyone. When I started to work, there were some, let's say, not so pleasant things. For example, when in one company, when they wanted to train me more for IBM mainframe system engineering tasks, they asked me when I will marry and when I will have children, because they are calculating, do they have, they calculated, we did, shall I return all the funds which they spent for me, for my training? But I got this training. That's one not so nice experience. And also, I must say, maybe I had a good experience because I don't feel that I was somehow suppressed as a woman, because I was always working with computers and I'd like to work with them. And I had no aspiration to be some kind of manager and so on. So I didn't endanger anything. And anyone. From time to time, my English is worse and sometimes it is better. Sorry for this, but you will accept. You have to listen to my English as it is. So I have to say that I didn't feel oppressed or somehow, I didn't feel that my gender influenced a lot my position at work. But maybe I'm an exception. Maybe I'm not the rule. I can't say anything for other women's expression. Experience, sorry, for other women's experience about gender.
And like the internet, like you have an experience in the internet for the last 33 years now, or 32 years.
Something like this, yeah.
Yes. Is there any thread that is common to the internet or from the internet from back then till now?
Sorry, will you repeat the question? I didn't catch exactly the meaning.
Yes. So is there any common thread that is from the internet or to the internet, like common thread to the internet or from the internet from back then till now?
I also must say that I look at the internet in a little different way. Internet just is another space of living of human beings. And everything you have in the real life is transposed to the virtual life. And we didn't need to be threatened about anything. We have to think about it and to try to cope with problems which will be arisen from the internet, from the usage of the internet. Sometimes press and are giving too much. You have criminal everywhere. You have criminal in the real world. You have it on the internet. Why not? Because people live in the both spheres. They live in the real world. They live in the virtual world. And everything which happens in the real world is going to happen or will happen in the virtual world. So I don't see any special threats from the internet. I just think that people could be aware that those things are normal and they have to cope with these problems as they cope with these problems in the real world.
This is like very interesting also for me, because I was kind of used to be with the internet, and I see the reflection also from the real world to the internet world all the time, that things that they get more prohibited in the real world, they get done in the internet, then they get prohibited to the internet, and people just trying to find means, for example, to pass these limits and I don't do the things they want to in any way they can.
But that's in the nature of the people. And you will always have good guys and bad guys, and they will always fight one against another. And that's the human civilization. You can't prevent it. You just have to live with it and to try to find the best way to solve the problems. That's how I look at it. It was easy when we have one small academic network, and I knew everyone who is administering every node in the network. And those days, people who were administering these nodes in the academic network, they were very they tried to obey to the rules which are imposed not by force, but by moral or by feeling, something like this. And there was less problems, although we had problems with the people in these networks too. People will always try to find a way to cheat someone or to gain something which doesn't belong to them, or that's in the human nature, and you have to live with it. But it was easier when the network was smaller. Now, some other mechanisms should be developed to provide the decent living in the virtual network for the normal people, let's say like this. And you will always have the dark side of everything.
So you see the internet as a reflection of the real world, or as an extension of the real world? How do you see the internet?
I see it as a reflection of the real world, not the extension. Those are the parallel worlds, really the parallel worlds. That's my feeling. I'm not a philosopher, I'm just an engineer. I can see things, or I can see things wrong. I might be wrong, but that's my feeling.
And could you see that this, when you first came in touch with that first node and the idea of connecting the world through wires and exchanging data, that this would become so important in our everyday life? Like we are somehow not addicted, but we use the internet for all of
everything.
everything.
No, I didn't think so. But looking backward, I saw the major, let's say, breakthroughs in the technology from 5 to 10 years. It is necessary. And I was learning during the life. I didn't expect that everything will be so dependent on the internet, but on the other side, as an old lady, I always have a backup in the real life. Sorry. For example, my phone books are in the written form also as in electronic form. That's something which is important to me. I'm using all the gadgets and all the things which make my life easier in the internet. I mean, e-banking, e-government, all this stuff, which gives me some kind of relaxation and not to force me to go somewhere to finish some kind of necessary task. But I'm 74, you see. So the life is yours and the future is yours and the history. And I have to have some different habits than you. And to watch, to look at the things in a different way than you young people.
And if we could like turn the time back and delete internet, kind of. Okay.
We cannot hear you.
Yeah, you cannot hear me.
No, so if we could delete internet, so I was
Yes.
hearing some background noise. So if we could delete internet, could you imagine the world without internet?
Of course. You have wars all the time in the human history, and everything was destroyed and deleted, and the humans arose, human civilization arose again. So internet just is one mean which gives some opportunities to the people to live working on the internet and so on. But if something terrible happened, and if internet stops working, although it is pretty difficult to do it, it should be some major disaster to break such kind of network. People should rise from the beginning. We shall be again in the Stone Age and so on and so on. in 1000 years or something like this. After the disaster, people will gain some kind of civilization, as it happens during the human history. I don't think it, but as internet as a concept is a very stable one, and it is not so easy to destroy everything. And I have a lot of confidence in the way this network is organized and governed. That's another thing, because no one can say it is mine and I will do with this. Yes, someone, as it happened to Serbia, someone can cut your connections, I mean landline connections, but on the other hand, you have satellite connections, you have different kind of connections to connect to the internet. The way will be found around. So I don't think it will vanish so soon.
What about you? What about your life if internet wasn't a thing back then and didn't exist, and we were just with computers that don't connect to each other? What do you think about what you would do?
I don't know. Probably I would change my work area, because networking was very, very interesting for me. I like doing it because I like playing with it. Everything from time to time, new things are happening, and it is always interesting to be in it. There is always a new things to be learned and done. So what I would do, electrical engineering, I don't know. I find some other profile of work. Maybe I will be an archaeologist. That's the thing I like. But when I started, when I was 18 and I wanted to go to the university, and my father asked me, what will you study? I said archaeology. And he asked me what you will eat if you study archaeology. After that, I decided to go to the technical faculty, because probably with the technical faculty, you can always find some kind of job.
And if the internet wasn't like created by like that time, it wasn't created that time, do you think that humans would create the internet after it anyway? So because you said it's a strong idea, so it's kind of a need and became a need, do you think that will be created anyway?
I started to work with computers, let's say 1971 or something like this. At the beginning of 1980, the idea, although during my first 2 years of work, and I was working at the beginning in the Yugoslav Railway computer center. It was also IBM mainframe those days. There was thoughts, because some other more progressive countries had provided for their travelers online ticketing, online buying of tickets. And it was the idea in Yugoslav networks that's the beginning of 1970, 71, 72, something like this, that Yugoslav railways should go in that way and provide also ticketing system, that they could sell tickets online. And they sent me in 1972 or 73, it was so long before, so many years ago, to London to see how British Railways are doing this. So those days there was ideas that computers could have some kind of online, could process some kind of online transactions. And that was the beginning of my life in the computer world, in the IT world. I was just an engineer. I'm not a philosopher. I was looking what is going on. I want to see the new things and I want to put the things in operational mode. I accepted it. So somehow my destiny is predetermined to go in the networking. Although I started to deal with networking 10 years later or something like this, when the idea of networking is ripe enough to be implemented in Serbia. Other countries were more developed in this area, but for example, networking for the first time in the statistical office of Serbia was used just for data collection, nothing else. After a while, some processing power is put in the departments of the statistical office, and some processing of data was done remotely, let's say like this. And I accepted it. I cannot say anything else. I'm not a visionary. Yes, that's the better term. I'm not a visionary. I'm just an operational engineer, and I like things to see working properly.
So to have an idea and make it work, make it happen.
I don't understand this question, I must say.
No, it's my understanding of what you said, that you want to see an idea and make it happen, make it work, and have it work.
About IDN.
No. Idea, sorry.
Idea, not idea. I'm just an engineer which can implement what is done, what is provided. I can make it work. But I have no vision to say that will be good to be done in that and that way. You see, we are different we have different minds. We have different gifts. My gift is to be operational, nothing more. And to hard work, yes, I can work hardly, that's it. But no imagination. Some other has to image.
So we also have a question from the chat. Vlad asks, what were your feelings? Sorry, I lost the question. So what were your feelings when .Yugoslavia, so .yu TLD ceased to exist? And what was the tech and the industries the tech industry and the civil community reaction?
Oh, it was not an easy task to fulfill, really, but it was a technical thing. When you work in the area which is dictated by some other obstacles or some other rules which you cannot change, you have to accept it. Yugoslavia ceased to exist. The treatment of Serbia those days was not so nice in the community, in Europe and the world around. It was necessary to organize some kind of enterprise or some kind of foundation which will govern this new Serbian top-level domain. And the rules said that if country ceased to exist, top-level domain is removed. The abbreviation which mark the specific country is removed from a specific list. From ISO specific list 3116 or something like this, and the domain should be retired because you can't have two domains for the same country. And the country has dissolved. We have used .yu, let's say 5-6 years or something like this. And when finally Serbia became a member of the United Nations, it was allowed to get code 3166 for Serbia, and that was .rs. And if we want to provide a CCTLD for Serbia, we have to retire the previous CCTLD which was used. It was not something which is unusual in CCTLD world. Those things happened before Yugoslavia, although some countries like SU, Soviet Union, they find a way that SU lives and is living still, but I was alone on those tasks. I had a very slight help from the community, and we discussed what is the best way to solve this problem. And it was the must. You have to retire one domain in order to get another. When you work with people and when you are somehow responsible for something what is going on in the community, you always have good and bad reactions. That's normal. But that was the only way to provide the normal CCTLD for Serbia to retire .yu. And I have no bad feelings about it. It is just a technical question for me. It was just necessary to provide the right way that none of the previous users of .yu be in any way in a bad position. And that was provided. And the transition lasted, it should be last a little bit longer, but those days it lasted 1 year. And after 1 year, everyone who wanted to have the new domain in cctld.rs got it. Also, that was the first time when for the domains in this part of the world, users has to pay, because before that I was volunteering and doing all the administration and maintenance in my free time. And it lasted for from 1994 to 2008, 14 years. And the amount of work was so big that I couldn't manage it. So people were waiting for 2 weeks or something like this to get a domain registered. It's completely crazy. Things can't function in that way. But on the other hand, the government was not very interested in this area. Although we in Serbia has every 4 years some kind of revolution, and in the revolution all things are turned up down. So, and you need probably 20 years to think that the situation in the community, in the country becomes somehow stable. And internet was the last thing about which the government will think. And some people from internet community agreed. I found some cooperation with internet community, mainly the young people, very young, 20 years, 22, 23 years, students and so on. And we decided to organize a non-profit, non-governmental organization, which is today Registry for Internet Domains in Serbia. This is their logo behind me. And it was not easy, because all of us are doing this thing for the first time, and the laws were not accommodated. We waited, let's say, 6 months or something like this for the organization to be registered, because the person who has to register the organization was not sure what was our intention. What shall we do with this registration? What will be our way of doing yes, what we shall do with this internet and something which is called domain and so on. All the things were not very easy, but at least we have now a registry which functions, let's say, from the 2008, and it is still stable, 13 years. And we built the infrastructure, which is quite okay. We are a small office, just 10 or 11 of us, but we are learning how to govern the internet in the Serbia. We have our governing board, we have our assembly, and all those things are completely new in this part of the world. So the people who are engaged in this in these structures, which are made, of which the registry, Serbian registry made, are also learning all the time. But I think we are the only registry in this part of the world which is organized in that way, that we are non-government, non-profit organizations. All the other are somehow sponsored or controlled by governments, except the Bulgarian, which is private company.
And you said that you had a lot of work to do, like huge amounts of work to do when you were administered the .yu domain. And yeah. I want to ask, like Bogdan has a relevant question about was there cooperation between internet experts in ex-Yugoslavia between, while political relations deteriorated and during war? And
the cooperation didn't exist. And the problem with .yu domain was the result of the wars in the Yugoslavia those days. I mean, from 1992 to 1994. And when we organized the registry, Serbian Registry is trying to, before this Corona stuff, which blocked everything, we had every year one big event, somewhere in the March, something like this, for the internet community in Serbia. And also second day of this event was organized, we organized a kind of exchange of opinions between Southeast Europe registries. Usually registries from Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Macedonia, Montenegro, all of them came to this meeting and we chat fantastically. We had a very good time, but those are technical people and we are dealing with similar people in our communities. And we have similar problems. Only Serbian registry is self-sustained. I mean, it lives from collecting the fee for domain name registration, but the other registries are somehow in the governmental structures or academic network structures, and they have more obstacles to overcome if they want to do something more than it is considered from the governments to what is their role in the community. But they are all nice guys. We had always a nice time.
And also from Bogdan, what do you consider the most important milestone in the internet development in Serbia?
Milestone. There might be few of them. Let's say first this is my personal view again. First, the installation, I mean the control of the top-level domain, country code top-level domain, first Yugoslavia, then .rs, but this .rs was much easier than .yu stuff. On the other hand, a very important thing was at the beginning of 1995, when UN sanctions has been removed and private enterprises started to fight for the internet space in Serbia. So very soon, during the 1995, we had two big providers to provide the internet for the community. After that, community was not, I mean, internet, at least what I know, everyone who wanted to be a provider of the internet service could gain it relatively easily. So there is a competition between providers in this area. That was the major thing for the ordinary customers. And another important thing again for me was the registration of IDN domain for Serbia, Serb. This is the country code top-level domain written in Cyrillic script. It is also not only in the internet in Serbia, but it is also one very important milestone in the internet of the world, because when you give the possibility to the people using different scripts and different languages to use the infrastructure in their own language, in their own culture, with their own in their own way, it is a big step forward. And also one of the, I mean, I learn all the time working in this area. Another very important milestone in the internet for, I mean, all over the world was the change of the governance of ICANN. You know that there are a few identifiers which should be controlled centrally, and they are controlled by the Californian Foundation, which is called ICANN, and till the year 2016 or 14, something like this. This organization was responsible to US government or US Chamber of Commerce or something like this. But from the year 2014 or 16, I forgot exactly, there is a completely new governance structure in governing the ICANN. And that's one of the very, very important things which happened in the internet. Maybe it is not so well seen, but it is, I think, the most important thing which happened in the internet after the TCP/IP protocol is announced. And in my view, I'm sometimes joking about it. This ICANN thing looks like a kind of test bed or pilot project for the peace in the world. It might be not, but at least I see it. Because everyone who wants to be engaged could be engaged. A lot of money which I can have is spent. I don't control how it is spent, although everything could be seen on the web. But they are putting a lot of effort to engage people from the different parts of the world to take their part in governing internet infrastructure. And world internet infrastructure is those 3-4 identifiers which are governed by, which are administered by ICANN. I think this is, after TCP/IP, the most important thing which happened in internet. Although I don't think about technical development, it will go in the way what market needs. I mean, what people need, and I can't compare this to anything.
And talking about the world peace and the internet infrastructure and the internet backbones, what about net neutrality? Also, it's a question by Bogdan. What's on your current take on tech neutrality? Net neutrality, sorry, not tech neutrality.
No, net neutrality. You see, I'm not very good in this. I lived in Socialistic Republic of Yugoslavia, so I'm not very good in markets and all this stuff. And it is again another battle which should be fought, and we shall see at the end the results of this battle. Yes, net neutrality should exist, but how it will be achieved and how the things will be solved in the future, I have no idea really. Maybe my brain cannot cope with this.
And Vlad also has a question about why the SU domain for the Soviet Union still remains in use, and what is the reason to keep it alive, and what can be its future?
Its future will be who will be bigger. That's the. You see, I don't know the history of SU, but they are a big country and they have a big power, and they have been on the right place in the right time, and they managed somehow that SU abbreviation got some special status in the ISO 3166 code table. And this special status has also some other abbreviations for the countries. And this will be the theme of long-term negotiations between different parts, but it is too far from me. And you can't change everything to be right. For small countries like Serbia, we have to try to survive, that's all. That's my opinion. And you are doing everything to survive. For big countries, they can compete between themselves. And this is not my I don't think about it. This is not the thing at which I can influence in any way. After this, what happened in Yugoslavia in the beginning of the 1990s, the war in the middle of Europe, which was awful. I thought I will never meet the war in my life, but it happened. I can't say anything about it. .SU will stay there until things change. And when it will happen, I don't know. But the rules are made for the majority of the people, and you always have some exceptions.
And also, Vlad has another question that I also have some input, because he's asking about, he's asking you to evaluate the Cyrillic domain name in Serbia and the terms of success of the Cyrillic domain name. Yes, and
no,
I also did in Greece, but in Greece is kind of a more new thing that we first registered the .el, that
yes,
from Lada, the Greece domain, and I don't see many domain names happen in the Greek alphabet. and also the .eu domain from European Union became
in Greek alphabet, yes.
Yes, in Greek alphabet. And trying to buy one of these domains was like hard because some providers didn't, you weren't able to register a domain in Greek script. So what about the Serbian one?
Yeah, we provided the Serbian, I mean the Cyrillic.Serb top level domain. It was not used. We have very few, I mean, few thousand of entries in this domain. But on the other hand, you see, this is relatively new thing, although it exists 10 years, and we live somewhere between two civilizations. At least the people in the Balkan. We are influenced, we are using Latin script. I use it all my life. We learn the different foreign languages, usually writing in the Latin script. So in Serbia, people doesn't make a difference between Cyrillic and Latin. When I read the text, I don't even think in which script it is written. But on the other hand, I think it is important. You have to think about your history, about your literature, about your people living all around the world, not only in Serbia. Serbs are in the United States, in Australia, in New Zealand, maybe in Soviet Union, everywhere. And if you want to show your history and your whatever is your Serbian way of living, you should have the space in the internet where you can present it. It might be used in the future, I don't know when, but it is good to exist, and that someone has the opportunity to choose what they want to use. The situation now is like this, that it is slightly used, but who knows, maybe in the future it will be used more, or it will die, I don't know. It is good to have the opportunity, that's the main thing.
Yes, I totally agree that it's good to have the opportunity, because sometimes you cannot express things and in Latin scripts that you want to express with your own script.
Yes, that's another thing. And you have all the literature, all the culture. I mean, at least Serbian history is at least 1,300 years old, something like this. And something has collected during this history, and it is necessary. It will be once digitized, and it will be once offered on the internet, and it is good to have the space where this could be provided. But maybe people will find another space for it. I don't know, but it is good to have. And also another thing was interesting because, for example, .serb was the second Cyrillic domain registered as IDN domain after Russians, of course. But I was doing alone Serbian domain, and the Russians has a bunch of people doing about it, dealing about it. It was interesting for me to be first in something, because we were last. We have been first at the end of the 80s. We have been last at the mid of 1990s. And now at the end of 2010, we have been first or second in something. I'm competing with myself. Nobody knows about it, anything, nothing.
And this is a very good comment, because innovation can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are or how you live. You can take a part in innovate and make everything happen that you want.
Yes, the freedom in internet is the main thing. You cannot you always can find the way to go out and to find what is necessary, what you want to find. Especially for us living in these, let's say, socialist countries, it was a new way of thinking and new feeling of freedom. And that's why I was addicted to it last 30 years, and doing as much as I can to promote it and to take care about it.
So is your inspiration about the internet and about the future of the internet still on? And do you feel still inspired by the internet? And
yes, you can always find things there which are very, very inspiring. For example, I am always getting very, very difficult jobs to fulfill. Last 6 years, I am chairing Latin Generation Panel. This is something which, some action in the icon, with the icon, which should provide the set of letters in every script, which should be used in the future top level domain new GTLDs. And this project lasts 11 years or 10 years or 11 or something like this. This Latin thing was so difficult that I thought we shall never finish it, but we finished it. Now it is in public comment, process at icon. But working on something 6 years, and with my age and my capacity, my energy, was not easy. But that's the last project I will be included. After that, I won't do anything else. I just can talk when my English is good, or sit at home and do some other things, go outside and so on, walking.
thank you. So thank you very much for everything today. It was very inspiring for me to hear all these things and learn like your side of the internet and how you lived it.
This is just my story. There are different stories like mine in the internet community. Everywhere when, I mean, in the small countries where internet started for the first time, there was always a group of people who are pushing it just because they think they should be done. That should be done. On the other hand, at the beginning of the internet here in Serbia, there was no money in it. So you have to put a lot of efforts and your free time to make things work. And that's why I was doing this, because it was not, it was just the volunteering. And I liked things which were going there, and that's why I put all my time in it. I'm sorry, my English is sometimes better, sometimes worse. I'm sorry for lacking of some words in English today. Maybe some other time it would be better, if it would be any other time. So thank you all for listening to me today. And I hope that you saw that I was happy working in this community. Really happy. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Thank you both. Thank you very much, Mirjana. I was listening and I was thinking that it's an amazing way that you've gone through your life. And thanks so much for sharing with us some moments which we would not know in any other circumstances. And I think that would be fair to say on behalf of all of us here in Zoom, in SEEDIG, and in the region, huge thanks to all that you have done, because thanks to people like you, we can enjoy the benefits of the internet now. And you were saying you can imagine your life without internet, but I think for many people of our generation, they could not imagine what they will do without the internet. So thank you for all that you've done for us to have the internet in our lives. And you are indeed an inspiration and the role model for many of us. And I hope that by achieving your age, we can also be proud of something good done in our lives. So thanks a lot. And thank you, Haris, for this conversation.
Thank you. That's the only thing I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being with us. Have a good day. And we have 2 more events within SEEDIG 7 series. So follow our updates and we are always happy to see you.